And good evening, and welcome to this episode of Chew the Cud. I'm John Houston, Director of Business Services with ProTrition Feed. Thank you for joining us this evening. Let me introduce to you my guest that I have with me this evening, Dr. Jay Hamby. Dr. Hamby is a consultant by day in training, education, and research, but certainly operates a fantastic sheep operation, been a livestock operator for years and years and years, and we're proud to have you, Dr. Hamby, on this segment. Josh Norman. Josh's day job is an ag teacher at Spring Hill High School, but operates a great goat operation over there in the Thompson Station area, both commercial and registered side to your business. Thank you, Josh, for being here. We have Josh Woodard. Two Joshes on the program. I'll try to keep them straight. So Josh Woodard, Josh, thank you for being here. Josh is the manager of the United Producers Sale Barn in Columbia, Tennessee, formerly the Tennessee Livestock Producers Barn, a great asset to Tennessee livestock marketing, and so appreciate you being here as well. Then we have Mark Powell. Mark has been in the sheep business for all your life, Mark, and certainly we appreciate you being here, and by day works at the Tennessee Department of Agriculture, a great partner to ProTrition Feed and the co-op system. So as we start, I want to focus this segment more about marketing, gentlemen, and all the different ways that we go about that. And so I want to start really, Josh Wilbur, with you, and you know, you're operating on average 2 sales a week over there or 2 sales a month, I should say, over there in Columbia, selling, I think you told me, over 30,000 head probably this year of sheep and goats. And what do you see as people come in with their kids or their lambs or whatever the case may be? It is a graded sale. And what do you see that we as producers really should be doing if we're leaving money on the table because we're not doing what?
Sure. So what I see with the market is we have folks that either sell their kids way too little. They pull them straight off the mother and bring them to the market, or the same thing with their lambs. They don't hit what I would consider a sweet spot in our community for a market, which is a 50 to 70 pound kid goat or lamb, just because of our market demands in this area. So getting and obviously we're a graded sale, so getting a lamb or kid to grade what we consider prime or choice through our state grader could take some supplement for that if they don't have good forage, but just selling too little is the biggest thing I see.
Real good, and I've been guilty of that myself. So I certainly understand that. And you get into some situations sometimes, and I've certainly been guilty of that myself, and I've felt it on the back end too, you know. But so Dr. Hamby, I know you are more in the high quality genetics side and the show side and that type of thing. So from a I guess a show stock side, how would you go about marketing show animals, and are there specific sales? Are there, you know, I know private treaty certainly, but how would you go about selling your sheep into that show market?
You bet. And John, the market's really changed in the last decade substantially on that front. We used to see shows marked like Sedalia, Missouri, the Midwest Stud Ram Sale, being a key place to market show stock and seed stock animals. But over the fullness of time, we've seen sales like that one diminish substantially in terms of their relevance. Dan Willoughby had a great idea with an online sales engine to market show stock, and to that end, the online world has exploded in that regard. And you know, Dan has several competitors out there too that offer online options for people with show stock. And so today, if you're a larger breeder, certainly that's the way you pretty much have to go to market in terms of just getting those animals out there online. And it's sales happen early. I mean, they move up each year. It's not unusual now to see the first sale starting in late February, early March, in terms of just where you're seeing some of these, anywhere from October born to November, December born lambs. And certainly as we get into the Januaries where they just explode in terms of number of online auctions. Now, all that stated, I'll back up a half step there too, and you really have to get these animals presented well for those online sales in terms of taking the right kind of pictures. Fortunately, camera technology has improved demonstrably along with the prevalence of these online sales. But again, just getting these animals positioned right for those markets, probably going to mean, you talk about, getting them fed right, maybe with some supplement, bloom them up just a little bit to make them look really, really good in terms of just putting an extra cover and condition on them, and getting those animals attractive to get placed into those homes. By the time you get into the March, April market for show and seed stock, it starts to wane a bit because, the show pens are full, people start running out of money. But then notwithstanding, we still do quite a bit of direct treaty business, have some clients that, come to us each year, maybe not looking for that ultra premium animal, but are going to come in and buy something middle of the road where it's more of a project focus, and they're trying to get that full experience. And so a lot of our, what I would call mid-market lambs, are going to be still yet sold on private treaty basis.
So, Josh, when you talk about it from a goat standpoint, and in particular from that show market, I know things are a lot the same, but also know from experience there are some particular sales in the area that do extremely well. Talk to me a little bit about getting a kid or a young doe or whatever ready for one of those sales, and what you have to do to be sure that you do well in one of these registered sales, and talk to me a little bit about what is marketable from a color standpoint and what's not marketable.
So pretty much like Dr. Wishamby was saying, you want to get them bloomy, you want them to be phenotypically correct, but you also want them to have that good cover, especially with the registered stock. Bigger is always better, it seems. Getting them ready for the sales, you want to keep them on feed. You want to keep them as stress-free and happy as they can be. You're going to build that hair. As much as it is about the animal, the hair game is really coming in with the registered goats and everything. So you're going to be working that as well as your nutrition side of things. In terms of some of the live sales, there's quite a few just here in Tennessee, either in Tennessee or surrounding states, that have really stepped up. And there's consigners from all across the country. We were at a sale recently just across the state line in Kentucky. There was people from Minnesota, Michigan, South Dakota, all around the Southeast and everything. But you want to present your animal in the best of its aspect, almost as if you were ready to take it into the champion drive at your state show or something, because you want the customer and the client to be able to see, if this is what it looks like at this stage, at this size, this gives us an idea of what it will be. And the other part of that is social media. I mean, getting them out there for people to see, to build interest in the sale, is just as important as having a good animal. With the goats now, depending upon your sale, there's different sales that are categorized for different things almost. Primarily in the show world, traditional show the best. But it's kind of funny at the same time, in the sale world, some of the dapples actually sell better. So we're seeing a transition. We're seeing more and more dapples and paints coming into the show world as well, that are doing very well. There was a buck the last year that did extremely well. And they had collected him and sold straws off of him, and he was not a traditional, he was a paint buck, but he's thrown some very good kids and everything. So getting them ready at home, nutrition, working hair, making the contacts. I mean, it's who you know. I mean, getting your name out there, having a quality product, and as much that after the sale is just as important. Being able to continue to work with the person that purchased that animal. I know my genetics. I know what works best on feed. I know what works best on hair care and how to grow them out, what supplements they need. So that's one thing we try to do with everybody is when you purchase something from us, it's not just appreciate it, thanks. We work with them throughout the entire show season. We suggest, okay, if I was going to breed this one, I would suggest something that looks like this. So we try to keep that relationship going throughout the length of their project.
It's still a relationship business, right?
Yes.
Still a relationship business. So, Mark, when we come over to Wilson County on your place, how do you? I know you've got registered animals as well, and certainly we've talked in prior episodes about some of the retail meat marketing. But how do you market your lambs?
It's those are the two areas. We have a purebred flock that is for show purposes, and we sell a lot of stud rams and stud ewes out of that flock. Some going to show flocks, and some just going to commercial flocks. We'll sell Hampshire rams to commercial breeders that just want a fast gaining ram to put on their ewes to get a little more growth. We've been around a long time, so word of mouth sells a lot of those. We found the social media is a good outlet, especially for selling outside of Tennessee. You just put a post up, and you'd be surprised how many people are looking at that time, and that's part of it is timing. Yeah, if you're selling rams, people are turning in rams August, September, so you need to have your rams up around June and July when people are looking for them. The freezer lamb market is growing. It's booming for us. We sell in two farmers markets, one in Las Casas, which is a live farmers market on Saturdays. The newest one is an online market in Murfreesboro, where we put our product on their website, and people select what they want online, and we deliver it to a central location in Murfreesboro. The advantage of that is when you go to a farmer's market, you have no idea who's going to come, what they're going to want, so you kind of have to stock the cooler with all different types of cuts. With this, I have a list of what people have brought, and that's all I have to bring. I can drop it off. A lot of times I'll stay and visit with the customers, but if I'm in a hurry, I can just drop it off and it'll get to them. But it's a good way to make probably double your money on a freezer lamb. Instead of just selling the whole lamb at $2 or $3 a pound, you're getting maybe $4 or $5 a pound. But it takes some time to market that. But you get to, I enjoy the working one-on-one with the people. Something else I've found that helps sell it is visiting with them and talking about cookery methods. Because lamb is one of the tastiest meats that are out there, in my opinion, but it goes south right quick if it's overcooked. So we stress the importance of good cookery methods, getting it cooked properly, but not overdoing it.
Really good, really good. So Josh, when it comes to sale day over at the UPI barn in Columbia, walk me through the process. I'm bringing a load, whether it be 50 or 5, and I'm coming in. I drive in. What happens from there? What do I do?
Okay, so we actually have a drive-through at our location, so folks are able to drive through. We'll unload you. We'll write you a ticket right there, name, address, phone number, everything. The state of Tennessee now requires scrapie tags on every animal. We are a market that is allowed to put scrapies in for that person, so we do that in-house for you. Then the animals are sorted by age, so anything under a year to us is still a kid, obviously. Anything older is old. We do mark yearlings, but after that it's considered old. We size and sex, and then they go to the state grader. So we use a state grader that basically touches almost every animal that comes through that barn. So when we have 1,000 to 2,000 head, he's touched every one of them. And then they go to like groups. Those animals then go on the scales, and they go to like groups, and we'll sell anywhere from 5 to 100 in a pen, depending on how that is, and ship those all over the United States.
So because they're graded and grouped doesn't mean you lose track of them. I might have mine in there with 4 or 5 other producers, which gets me a better option to buyers, gives me a better access to buyers with a larger group. but you know whose are whose, so everybody's going to get their correct check, right?
They sure are. So we actually have mousetraps set up in the barn from the time the animal unloads till it gets to the scales. We have a piece of paper that goes with that producer's stock, and it allows us to keep track of everything. And I'm usually the person that does that. I stay with the animals till they get to the sorting pens. And then once they go on the scales, we have a unique number that goes with the identification of that farmer. And that goes in our system, and they get weighed, and the scale house names the pen. And we print out a sheet, and it comes with your check, or you can get it any time, actually. But it tells you what your animals weigh, because we could weigh, if you have 5 kid goats that weigh the same, they're all males, we could weigh them all together, and it'll tell you the average weight and what pen they went in and what grade they made. And yeah, that stays with you the whole time. So yeah, we can track everything, and obviously with scrapey tags, we can go back and track, which happens. We have to track from time to time if the USDA or somebody needs us to look something up. But yeah, we can track, which is something that's going to be obviously changing. In another segment, Doc was talking about traceability stuff. It's coming. You guys already see it in the registered side.
Absolutely, and I appreciate that, and certainly I've had experience selling, at the UPI barn, and I certainly believe it to be a very outstanding operation, and kudos to you and your staff for what you do for the sheep and goat industry, especially in the state. But I know UPI has goat sales in Kentucky and other places, so and sheep sales, so certainly helping the industry, and we really appreciate that as well. And so when we talk about marketing, I wanted to follow back up, Mark, with you, because you mentioned having wool breeds, and I grew up with wool breeds, and my brother actually spent 6 months in Finland, and he learned to really shear, and I hate it, so I went to the hair sheep route. So anyway, but selling wool, can you talk just a little bit? I know you've been really instrumental and involved in the wool pool, and talk a little bit about that and Tennessee's involvement with that.
The Tennessee Sheep Producers Association has a wool pool where sheep producers can bring their wool together in one central location, and it's sold as one big lot. If I produce 600-700 pounds a year, which is not very much for somebody wanting to buy a large quantity. So if I was to try and sell that, I wouldn't get very much for it. But the fact that we have a pool where everybody can bring their wool together, and it be 15,000-20,000 pounds of wool, that is marketable and worth a whole lot more than just an individual bag. But we believe our wool pool is one of the oldest in the country. It's been going on for a very long time. One of the reasons our pool is so nice or something that people want to look at and purchase is we bale all of the wool that's brought in. So instead of selling 700, 120 pound bags of wool, we'll sell it in 400 pound packs, which stacks into a truck very easily. It's very easy to transport, which makes our wool very marketable. But the way the process works is we start in middle of April, and we send out an email to all of our buyers and say we're going to have roughly 15 to 20,000 pounds of wool ready to purchase in June, middle of June, and it's just like any auction, the highest bidder wins. And so our buyers actually selected in April. We send all that information out to our sheep producers and set 2 dates in June, usually a Tuesday and a Thursday. And we set up at Columbia Co-op in Middle Tennessee and Dandridge Co-op in East Tennessee. And those are 2 places where farmers can bring their wool in, and all of the wool is sorted and graded, and we write a ticket for each producer as far as the type of wool they bring and the tonnage, and give that to the producer, and then we take that wool and we bale it by grade. So all of the white face wool goes in one section, all the black face wool in another, and so on. And then the buyer has already agreed to the price, so the producers know exactly what they're going to be getting, and then they come and pick it up, and it's processed then. One drawback of that is we have to have balers in order to do that, and our balers have been down, and we're having trouble getting our balers. So our wool pool has been called off for this year, but we've got several grants that we're looking at to get some balers to get that program back up and running.
Very good. Thank you for that. And so as we wind this episode up, I wanted to mention one other thing, especially Mark, as we wind up. One of the real assets Tennessee has had has been the Ag Enhancement Program, and for sheep and goat producers, certainly there are options there to get cost share on equipment, even genetics, I think, and so we certainly want to thank the Tennessee Department of Agriculture, first of all, for continuing to fight for us to have that funding as producers, not only on the sheep and goat side, but on the cattle side as well. But also want to make our audience aware that is available. So if you would just comment about the application period and just a few brief comments about the ag enhancement.
Yes, I would definitely encourage any sheep producer to look at this program. For sheep producers, there's a number of things that they can purchase. A lot of the livestock equipment, the handling equipment for sheep, shears, trimming stands, things like that are all cost shared on this program. The application period is in the fall, in October, and you've got about a week or two to apply. And then once you apply, you can purchase the equipment through the fall, winter, and spring, and then get your reimbursement back in late spring. But it's not a program that's utilized as much as I'd like through the sheep breeders, and I would encourage people to look at that program.
Really good. And so, Dr. Hamby, I know being in training and education, certainly there is a training and education component to ag enhancement. And, talk to us just a little bit about how important it is, I guess, take your producer hat off maybe in your training and education, how important education is to not only sheep and goat producers, but all producers. How important is it that we stay up to date?
Oh, it's critical, and I think really the genesis of, you think about the Ag Enhancement Program, is to really ensure, because there is an educational component to it, and you can really enhance how much you can get reimbursed for certain elements of that with education that's done or really orchestrated by University of Tennessee Extension. So to that end, I think it's critical, if you're a starting sheep producer, to lay that foundation, to get in there and learn all you can to not make those mistakes. Because again, you think about, well, once had a farmer kind of qualify it to me this way: I wish there was this pool of information that we could all share effectively, because like, I've been farming for 50 years, and it's like every year I learn a big lesson that's cost me money, and sometimes more so than others. So say all that to say this, again, what can we do early on to minimize the errors that we might make in managing and producing sheep or goats? But to that end, as you grow in the trade, I still think there's an opportunity for ongoing or continuing education to share ideas and to collaborate with others. This is what I've been trying here, been trying there, not only from a management perspective in a commercial scenario, but show stock as well, what supplements tend to work best to maximize performance and the like. I just see there's a great opportunity, not only for that initial education, but also the continuing component too.
And so that's, Josh, that's the business you're in, is education, and you're trying to, I guess, instill in young people the importance of education. And
Yes,
and by doing that, I know at Spring Hill, you brought in some livestock. I know hogs for sure, but
yeah.
I don't know about the sheep and goats yet. But certainly I can imagine that there are some of those students that are taking hold of that and
Yes, sir.
moving on. So,
Yep.
As we wind up, I just want to say thank you to Mark and Josh and Dr. Hamby. Thank you so much for your time today. And I would say to our audience, If there's any questions, products, information, check with your local farmers co-op. Thank you.